Okay, I always get a lot of questions about this, so I thought I would go over this real quick to explain a number of different ways to attach a solid wood tabletop to a frame to allow for the seasonal contraction and expansion of the wood. I've got my tabletop over here. It's flipped upside down so I could varnish the bottom. That's the last finishing step. But this is 4 feet wide, and as a general rule, I use 1/8 inch per foot as your maximum dimensional change that you should expect and plan for when you're attaching solid wood tabletops to frames. So that's a 1/2 inch. If you don't plan for that, you'd end up with a 1/2 inch crack somewhere in the table. So it is important to allow for the dimensional change. So I have 4 methods illustrated here that I use in my furniture building. I use a lot of these tabletop fastener clips. These are pretty straightforward, and they are installed just by simply cutting a kerf in the table apron, either with a table saw or with a biscuit joiner. I prefer to do it with a biscuit joiner because it makes a more isolated cut, and the table saw cuts it all the way through, so that kind of decreases the strength a little bit. It's nice to do it on the table saw, so it's kind of pre-made and you don't have to worry about it later. But these clips do have some limitations, and you really only get a 1/4 inch of contraction, so they can slide left to right okay, but if you install them on the ends, they can pull out if you have a really wide tabletop. So in that case, I prefer to go with a slot cut on the table saw. And I put on an additional piece on the top of the apron here. And so this slot allows for this lateral movement forward and backwards. And I can customize this and make it as large as I need to. So I can get a lot more movement with this way of attaching it. Another way of cutting a slot, and by the way, I use these big round washer head screws. So another way to cut this slot is just with the biscuit joiner like that. That's another way to do it that works pretty well. And another method, which doesn't allow for quite as much movement, but it works pretty good, is to make this conical shaped hole using a sheet metal step drill bit. And so this allows for a little bit of wiggle back and forth like that. But I can place this, a little bit further down so that this part of the tabletop here isn't going to move as much as it will over on the far end. And I always pin it right in the center. So I'll put 3 screws right here at my center location so that all the tabletops are going to be pinned at its center point, and then the expansion will, happen on the edges. If this was a copper or zinc countertop, it has a plywood substrate, and you can screw it right to the frame, and you don't have to worry about that. So that's 3 different methods, or 4 different methods of attaching solid wood tabletop to a frame. The clips are faster and more efficient because you don't need to add any extra material. So for smaller tables, I always go with the clips. For larger tables, I'll add extra building material for structural support, and also to allow for me to make these slots. So I hope that clarifies my methods that I use. I don't always explain what I'm doing in my build videos, but I hope this will shed some light. And I got to get this table wrapped up and driven out of here. And unfortunately, I don't have help to move this around, so I got to Just kind of load it in the truck as is.